The contract sat on the table, waiting for Vanessa Sterling's signature. One signature, and the billionaire would lose everything to a man who'd been lying since the day they met. Landon Hayes stood in the doorway, evidence of fraud clutched in his shaking hands, watching the woman he'd loved for 6 years about to destroy herself. He had one chance to save her, and finally admit the truth he'd been hiding behind jokes and silence for half a decade. But first, he'd have to get past the con artist who'd already convinced Vanessa that her best friend was just jealous, just bitter, just a working-class fool who couldn't stand seeing her happy. This is a story about love hidden in crooked shelves and late-night pasta, about the home two broken people built without realizing it. Stay until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Landon Hayes learned about disappointment early. His daughter taught him that lesson the hard way when her mother walked out 3 days after she was born, leaving nothing but hospital bills and a note that said she wasn't ready for this kind of life. He was 26 then, working construction 12 hours a day, coming home to a screaming infant he had no idea how to feed properly. The foreman on his crew, old guy named Martinez, had pulled him aside one morning after finding Landon asleep in his truck, baby carrier strapped in the passenger seat. "You look like shit, kid." "Yeah, well, join the club." "You got family?" "Not anymore." Martinez had just nodded, then handed him an extra thermos of coffee without another word. That was 6 years ago. Landon had learned to survive on coffee, stubbornness, and the kind of exhaustion that makes you forget what being well-rested even feels like. By 32, he'd built a reputation around Portland for restoration work that other contractors wouldn't touch. The houses nobody wanted, century-old Victorians with rotted foundations, craftsman bungalows held together by lead paint and optimism, brick warehouses that should have been condemned decades ago. He specialized in taking broken things and making them beautiful again, probably because fixing houses was easier than fixing himself. His daughter Emma was 7 now, gap-toothed and stubborn, with her mother's dark hair and his inability to let things go. She spent weekdays with his sister Rachel while he worked, weekends helping him sand furniture and asking questions he didn't know how to answer. "Why don't you have a girlfriend, Daddy?" "Because I'm too busy fixing other people's houses, Bug." "Ms. Vanessa isn't your girlfriend?" "No, she's my friend." "But you smile different when she calls." Kids noticed everything. It was terrifying. Vanessa Sterling had walked into his life 6 years ago carrying architectural plans for a historic apartment building she'd just bought in the Pearl District. She was 24 then, fresh off inheriting a technology fortune from her father's company, looking absolutely lost in a vintage Chanel suit that probably cost more than Landon's truck. She'd found him through a referral from an interior designer who knew he did good work cheap. Their first conversation had been a disaster. "I want to preserve the original character," she'd said, walking through the gutted second floor. "Nothing modern, nothing cold. I want it to feel like someone actually lives here." "You planning to live here?" "Eventually, maybe. I haven't decided." "Well, you should probably decide before I start ripping out walls." She'd looked at him like nobody had ever talked to her that way before. "Excuse me? I'm just saying, if you don't know what you want, I'm going to build what I think you need, and you might hate it." There'd been this long silence where he thought she was going to fire him on the spot. Instead, she'd laughed. This surprised, genuine sound that made her seem younger than 24. "Fine. Build what you think I need. But if I hate it, you're redoing everything for free." Deal. He'd built her an apartment that felt like a home. Exposed brick, refinished hardwood floors, a kitchen with butcher block counters and open shelving instead of sterile cabinets. She'd cried when she saw it finished, which had made him deeply uncomfortable because he didn't know what to do when rich people cried. "It's perfect," she'd whispered. "Yeah, well, you're paying me, so..." "I'm serious, Landon. It's exactly what I needed." And somehow, after that project ended, she just never left his life. She'd call him about a loose floorboard. He'd text her photos of Emma's school projects. She'd show up at his workshop with coffee and pastries, claiming she was in the neighborhood, even though her office was downtown and his shop was in Southeast Portland. They'd grab dinner after work, argue about movies, spend entire Saturdays at estate sales looking for furniture she didn't need. Everyone assumed they were together. His crew, her assistant, random people at restaurants. Even Emma had asked multiple times why Vanessa wasn't her stepmom yet. The truth was simpler and more complicated than that. Landon had been in love with Vanessa Sterling for approximately 5 years and 11 months, and he'd spent every single day convincing himself it didn't matter because there was no possible universe where a billionaire tech heiress and a single-dad contractor made sense. She dated men who wore $1,000 watches and summered in the Hamptons. He wore Carhartt pants with drywall dust in the pockets and hadn't taken a vacation since Emma was born. She went to charity galas. He went to bed at 9:30 because his alarm went off at 5. They were friends, best friends, the kind who could sit in comfortable silence for hours or argue passionately about whether subway tile was overrated. But that was all they'd ever be, because Landon had learned a long time ago not to want things he couldn't have. Then came the furniture store incident. Vanessa had bought another property, a small apartment near the river that she claimed she wanted as an escape from her main place downtown, which was insane because her main place was barely 1,500 square feet and already felt like an escape. But she'd asked him to help furnish it, and he'd said yes because he was pathetic and would probably help her furnish a doghouse if she asked. They'd spent the entire weekend together, Saturday hitting every vintage shop and estate sale in the metro area, Sunday assembling furniture, hanging shelves, and bickering about whether the couch should face the windows or the fireplace. "It should face the fireplace," Vanessa insisted, standing in the empty living room with her hands on her hips. She was wearing jeans and one of his old sweatshirts because she'd spilled coffee on her shirt that morning. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked absolutely beautiful, which was a problem. "That's idiotic," Landon said, measuring the wall space. "The view is the whole point of this apartment. You face the couch toward the water. The fireplace creates ambiance. The fireplace is decorative. It doesn't even work." "I could get it working. You could also face the couch toward the view and put a chair by the fireplace." She'd glared at him. "You're impossible. You asked for my help." "I'm starting to regret that decision." "Yeah, well, you'll regret it more if you put that couch in the wrong spot and I have to move it later." They'd argued for another 20 minutes before compromising on an angle that faced both the windows and the fireplace. Then they'd gone to pick up a dining table from an antique store in Selwood. The shop was one of those cramped, overstuffed places that smelled like mothballs and old wood. The owner was a guy in his 60s who seemed to know Vanessa by sight, probably because she'd bought half his inventory over the years. "Back again," he'd said cheerfully. "What are we looking for today?" "Dining table," Vanessa said, pointing at a mid-century piece near the back. "That one. Can we take it today?" Of course, of course. Let me write up the receipt. You and your husband need help loading it?" The word had landed in the middle of the store like a grenade. Landon had frozen. Vanessa had gone very still beside him. "Oh, we're not," she'd started. But Landon, in a moment of pure panic disguised as humor, had laughed and said, "Yeah, sure, we'll take the husband discount if you're offering." The owner had chuckled and wandered off to print the receipt. Vanessa hadn't said anything. She'd just turned and walked toward the back of the store, pretending to examine a set of chairs that she clearly had no interest in. Landon had followed her. "Vanessa, it's fine. I was just joking around." "I know." Her voice was light, too light. "It's funny. People always assume." "Yeah." He'd shoved his hands in his pockets, feeling like an idiot. "Happens all the time." There'd been this terrible silence. Then Vanessa had turned to look at him, and there was something in her expression he couldn't quite read. Something that looked almost like hurt, but that didn't make sense because it was just a stupid joke from a stranger who didn't know them. "Can I tell you something?" she'd said quietly. "Of course." "I wish it hadn't been a joke." The words had hit him like a physical blow. He'd stood there in the back of that dusty antique store, surrounded by furniture nobody wanted anymore, and felt his entire world tilt sideways. "Vanessa, forget it." She'd smiled quickly, that practiced smile she used in business meetings. "I don't know why I said that. Let's just get the table." But Landon couldn't forget it. He'd spent the rest of the afternoon loading furniture, assembling the dining table in her new apartment, making small talk that felt hollow and wrong. The whole time her words kept echoing in his head. I wish it hadn't been a joke. He should have said something, should have told her the truth, that calling her his wife had felt frighteningly natural, that he'd laughed because the alternative was admitting he'd been imagining that exact scenario for years, That he was terrified because for half a second in that store, he'd felt what it might be like if they stopped pretending. But he didn't say any of that. He just helped her arrange furniture, made a joke about her questionable taste in decorative pillows, and left around 8 o'clock claiming he needed to get home to Emma. The truth was, Emma was spending the night at Rachel's. He just needed to get out of that apartment before he said something that would ruin 6 years of friendship. He drove home in silence, pulled into his driveway, and sat in his truck for 20 minutes trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. His phone buzzed. Text from Vanessa. "Thank you for today. Apartment looks perfect." He'd stared at the message for a long time before typing back, "Anytime." What he'd wanted to say was, "I wish it hadn't been a joke either. I've been in love with you since you cried over butcher block counters 6 years ago. I think about what it would be like to call you my wife, approximately 50 times a day. I'm terrified because you could have anyone, and I'm just a contractor with a kid and a mortgage and nothing to offer except drywall skills and a decent sense of humor." Instead, he'd sent "anytime" because he was a coward. 3 days later, everything fell apart. Landon had been in the middle of a bathroom renovation in the West Hills when Vanessa texted asking if he could stop by her new apartment that evening. He'd said yes immediately because apparently he enjoyed torturing himself. He'd picked up pasta from that Italian place she loved, the one that made fresh pappardelle, and charged $20 for what amounted to noodles and butter. Emma was with Rachel for the week, spring break, which meant he had nothing to do except overthink every interaction he'd had with Vanessa for the past 6 years. He'd knocked on her apartment door at 7, holding the takeout bag, rehearsing an apology in his head for the furniture store thing, even though he wasn't sure exactly what he was apologizing for. The door opened. It wasn't Vanessa. A man stood in the doorway, tall, probably late 30s, wearing a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up in that carefully casual way that probably took 10 minutes to get right. He had the kind of face that belonged in cologne advertisements. Symmetrical. Practiced. He smiled like someone who'd never been told no in his life. "Can I help you?" the man asked. Landon stared at him. "I'm looking for Vanessa." "She's just finishing a call. You are?" "Landon, I'm her—" He stopped, suddenly unsure how to finish that sentence. Friend, contractor, the guy who'd been secretly in love with her for half a decade? "Oh, you're Landon." The man's smile widened. "Vanessa's told me about you. The handyman, right?" Something about the way he said handyman made Landon's jaw tighten. "Contractor." Right, sorry. Come in. I'm Adrian." He stepped back, gesturing Landon inside with the casual confidence of someone who belonged there. Landon walked into the apartment he'd spent an entire weekend furnishing and felt like he was in the wrong place. Adrian had clearly been there a while. There was a wine bottle open on the counter, 2 glasses, jazz playing softly from Vanessa's speaker. "Vanessa," Adrian called toward the bedroom. "Your contractor friend is here." She appeared in the doorway, phone still pressed to her ear, and her face did something complicated when she saw Landon. Surprise, guilt, something else he couldn't name. She held up one finger, 1 minute, and disappeared back into the bedroom. Landon stood in the living room holding pasta that was rapidly getting cold, trying to figure out what the hell was happening. "So," Adrian said, leaning against the kitchen counter like he owned it, "you did the renovation work on this place?" "Some of it." "Interesting choices." Adrian looked around with an expression that managed to be both polite and dismissive. "Bit rustic for someone of Vanessa's standing, don't you think? She wanted it to feel like home." "Right, but—" Adrian gestured vaguely at the exposed brick. "She's a billionaire. She could have something much more impressive." "She didn't want impressive, she wanted comfortable." "Well," Adrian smiled, "people's tastes change." Landon wanted to put his fist through that smile. Instead, he set the pasta down on the dining table, the one he and Vanessa had picked out together, and tried to keep his voice level. "How long have you known Vanessa?" "About 3 weeks. We met at a tech conference. She's brilliant, obviously. We really connected." 3 weeks. This guy had known Vanessa for 3 weeks and was already wandering around her apartment like he lived there. Vanessa emerged from the bedroom, tucking her phone into her pocket. She looked different, hair down, wearing actual heels instead of the sneakers she usually wore around him, makeup done in a way that suggested she'd been planning to go somewhere before Landon showed up. "Hey," she said, and her voice was careful. I didn't know you were coming by. You texted me, Landon said. That was this morning. I thought... She glanced at Adrian, then back at Landon. I thought you might have been busy. Translation. I thought you'd take the hint that I have company. I brought pasta, Landon said stupidly. That's sweet, but Adrian and I already ate. Right. Landon picked up the bag again, feeling like an absolute idiot. I'll just go then. Actually, Adrian said, moving to stand next to Vanessa in a way that was clearly possessive. Before you do, maybe you could give us your professional opinion on something. Adrian, Vanessa started. I've been telling Vanessa she should consider upgrading, Adrian continued. I have connections to some incredible properties downtown, proper penthouses, the kind of place that actually reflects her status. Landon looked at Vanessa. I thought you bought this place because you liked it. I do like it, she said quickly. But she could like something better, Adrian said. Something with actual amenities, concierge service, security, not just some converted apartment in a neighborhood that's still half industrial. The neighborhood is fine, Landon said. For most people, sure, but Vanessa deserves exceptional. Adrian put his hand on the small of her back. Actually, I wanted to talk to you about an investment opportunity. Exclusive luxury townhouses going up in the West Hills. Limited availability. I could get Vanessa access to the pre-sale. Every alarm bell Landon had developed over 15 years in construction started ringing at once. What company? He asked. Pierce Development Group. It's a private firm. Very selective client base. Never heard of them. Adrian laughed. Well, you wouldn't have. It's institutional level investment, not really your world. There it was again. That subtle dismissal. Your world. Adrian's been really helpful, Vanessa said, and there was something defensive in her tone. He understands the investment side of real estate. I'm sure he does. Landon looked at Adrian. How long have you been in development? Long enough to know a good opportunity when I see one. Adrian smiled. I'm actually putting together a presentation for Vanessa this week. Some really exciting options. Great, Landon said. I'm sure it'll be very exciting. The sarcasm was barely concealed. Vanessa caught it immediately. Landon. I should go. Emma's waiting. It was a lie. Emma was at Rachel's for 3 more days. But Landon needed to get out of that apartment before he said something he'd regret. He headed for the door. Vanessa followed him. Wait, she said quietly. He stopped in the hallway, hand on the doorknob. Are you okay? She asked. Fine. You seem upset. I'm not upset. Landon, he turned to look at her. Who is that guy, Vanessa? His name is Adrian. I told you we met at a conference 3 weeks ago. Yes. And now he's what? Moving into your apartment? He's not moving in. We're just seeing each other. Right. Why do you care? The question came out sharper than he'd expected. You're my friend, Landon. I'm allowed to date people. She was right. She was completely right. And it made him furious. You're right, he said. You should date whoever you want. Then what's the problem? The problem is I've been in love with you for 6 years, and I'm watching you fall for some smooth-talking guy who uses words like institutional-level investment and looks at your apartment like it's beneath you. No problem, Landon said. Just be careful. Careful of what? Guys who show up out of nowhere promising exclusive investment opportunities. It's a red flag, Vanessa. Her expression hardened. You don't even know him. I know his type. His type? Yeah. Guys who see a wealthy woman and start talking about how she deserves better. It's a sales pitch. Or maybe he actually thinks I deserve better than a converted apartment in an industrial neighborhood. She crossed her arms. You sound jealous. The word hit him like cold water. I'm not jealous. Then what are you? Terrified. Heartbroken. Furious at myself for being too much of a coward to tell you the truth 3 days ago, when it might have mattered. I'm trying to look out for you, he said. I don't need you to look out for me, Landon. I'm not one of your renovation projects. The words stung more than they should have. Right, he said. My mistake. He left before she could say anything else. Walked to his truck, threw the bag of pasta in the passenger seat, and drove home in silence. When he got there, he sat in his driveway for the second time in a week, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong so fast. His phone buzzed. Text from Vanessa. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. He stared at the message, started typing a response, deleted it, started again. Finally sent, it's fine. I'm happy for you. Another lie. He was getting good at those. But Landon Hayes had built a career on fixing broken things, and he knew damage when he saw it. Adrian Pierce was wrong. Everything about him was wrong. The way he looked at Vanessa's apartment with barely concealed contempt. The way he called Landon the handyman like it was an insult. The practiced charm that felt rehearsed. The vague investment opportunity that came with no concrete details. Landon had seen dozens of scams over the years. Contractors who took deposits and disappeared. Investors who promised massive returns on property flips that didn't exist. Smooth talkers who separated wealthy clients from their money with promises of exclusive opportunities. He opened his laptop and started searching. Pierce Development Group, Adrian Pierce, West Hills luxury townhouses. Nothing came up. No website, no business registration, no permits filed with the city. He expanded the search. LinkedIn, Facebook, any trace of Adrian Pierce in the Portland real estate world. Still nothing. He tried a different approach. Checked property records for recent sales in the West Hills. Nothing matched what Adrian had described. No luxury townhouse development. No pre-sale opportunities. Landon sat back, staring at his screen. Either Adrian Pierce was lying about his business, or he was operating so far under the radar that he might as well be invisible. Neither option was good. He spent the next 3 hours falling down a research rabbit hole. Cross-referenced the name Adrian Pierce with fraud complaints, Better Business Bureau reports, court records. Searched for variations. A. Pierce, Adrian P., A.J. Pierce. Finally, around midnight, he found something. A complaint filed in Seattle 2 years ago. A woman claiming she'd been defrauded by a man named Adrian Pierce who'd convinced her to invest in a luxury condo development that never existed. She'd lost $500,000 before realizing the contracts were fake. The case had been dismissed due to lack of evidence. The man had disappeared before prosecutors could build a case. Landon kept digging. Found 2 more similar complaints in San Francisco and Vancouver. Same pattern. Wealthy women. Fake investment opportunities. Large deposits transferred to accounts that closed within days. Each case described the same type of man. Charming, well-dressed, knowledgeable about real estate, focused on victims who were emotionally vulnerable. Landon's blood ran cold. Vanessa Sterling, brilliant, wealthy, and still wounded from their conversation at the furniture store, was the perfect target. He grabbed his phone and called her. It went straight to voicemail. He texted, "We need to talk. It's important." No response. He tried calling again. Voicemail. At 1 a.m, he got a text back. "Can't talk now. Adrian and I are reviewing the townhouse proposal. I'll call you tomorrow." Landon stared at the message. She was with Adrian. Right now. Looking at whatever fake investment he'd put together. And Landon realized with growing horror that tomorrow might be too late. He grabbed his keys and headed for the door. The drive to Vanessa's apartment took 15 minutes that felt like hours. Landon's hands were tight on the steering wheel, his mind racing through every possible scenario. Maybe he was overreacting. Maybe Adrian Pierce was legitimate, and Landon was just a jealous idiot seeing threats that didn't exist. Maybe showing up at 1 a.m. would make him look completely insane. But the complaints he'd found kept flashing through his head. Seattle, San Francisco, Vancouver, $500,000. Fake contracts. Victims who'd trusted the wrong person. He pulled up outside her building and sat there for a moment, engine idling. The lights were on in her apartment. 3rd floor, corner unit. He could see shadows moving behind the curtains. His phone buzzed. Text from Rachel. "Everything okay?" You usually don't text this late. He'd forgotten he'd sent her a message earlier asking if she could keep Emma through the weekend. Apparently she'd noticed the timestamp. He typed back, "Fine. Just working late. Thanks for watching her. Anytime. But Landon, whatever you're doing, be careful." His sister knew him too well. He got out of the truck and headed inside. The building had security now. Vanessa had installed it after someone broke into the ground floor storage units last year. Landon had recommended the company. He still had the access code. He took the stairs 2 at a time, his work boots heavy on the concrete. By the time he reached her door, his heart was pounding, and he wasn't sure if it was from the climb or the adrenaline. He knocked. Hard. There was a pause. Footsteps. The door opened, and Adrian stood there, shirt untucked now, looking annoyed. "It's 1 a.m, Adrian said. I need to talk to Vanessa." "She's busy." "I don't care." Adrian's expression hardened. "Look, I don't know what your deal is, but you need to leave. Not until I talk to her." "Landon?" Vanessa appeared behind Adrian, looking confused and worried. "What are you doing here?" "We need to talk. Now." "It's the middle of the night." "I know what time it is." Landon looked past Adrian, directly at her. 5 minutes. Please." Something in his voice must have registered because her expression shifted from annoyed to concerned. "It's fine," she told Adrian. "Give us a minute." "Vanessa, we're in the middle of reviewing the proposal." "I said give us a minute." There was steel in her voice. Adrian's jaw tightened, but he stepped back. Vanessa came out into the hallway, closing the door behind her. She was still wearing the heels, still had her makeup on, but she looked tired. "This better be important," she said. Landon pulled out his phone and showed her the screen. The Seattle complaint. The woman who'd lost $500,000. Vanessa's eyes scanned the text. Her expression didn't change. "What is this?" she asked. "A fraud complaint. Filed against Adrian Pierce 2 years ago. That could be anyone. It's a common name." "Read it, the whole thing." She took his phone and read. He watched her face carefully, looking for any sign that she was seeing what he was seeing. The same pattern, the same method. When she finished, she handed the phone back. "This doesn't prove anything," she said. "There are 3 more. Seattle, San Francisco, Vancouver. Same name, same scam. Or 3 different people with the same name who all happen to be in real estate." "Vanessa, you show up at 1 a.m. with some internet research and expect me to what? Throw Adrian out based on a hunch?" "It's not a hunch. I've been in this business for 15 years. I know what fraud looks like. You fix houses, Landon. You don't investigate people." The word stung, but he pushed past it. "I called the permit office," he said. "There's no luxury townhouse development in the West Hills. No permits filed by Pierce Development Group. No business registration in Oregon or Washington." "Maybe it's early in the process. Then why is he showing you proposals? You don't show investment proposals before you have permits." Vanessa crossed her arms. "Maybe he has a different business structure. Maybe the permits are filed under a parent company. There are a dozen explanations. Or maybe he's lying." "Why would he lie?" "Because you're worth $3 billion and he's a con artist." The number hung in the air between them. Landon never talked about her money. None of her real friends did. But there it was, out in the open. Vanessa's expression went cold. "Is that what you think this is about? My money?" "I think that's what it's about for him." "But not for you, right? You're different. You're the noble contractor who doesn't care about any of that." "I don't. Except you're here at 1 a.m. telling me who I can and can't date based on Google searches and paranoia." "I'm trying to protect you." "I don't need protection. I need you to trust that I can make my own decisions." "I do trust you. Then trust me now." She turned toward the door. "Adrian is helping me evaluate an investment opportunity. That's all. If it doesn't check out, I won't invest. I'm not an idiot." "I never said you were." "Then stop treating me like one." She reached for the door handle. Landon grabbed her wrist gently. "Vanessa, please, just wait. Let me look into this more. Give me a couple of days to verify things before you sign anything." She pulled her hand away. "There's nothing to sign yet. We're just looking at options. Promise me you won't give him any money until I can check this out properly. You don't get to tell me what to do with my money. I'm not trying to—" He stopped, took a breath, tried to find the right words. 3 days ago you told me you wished it hadn't been a joke. Remember that?" Her expression flickered. "What does that have to do with anything?" "Everything. Because I wished it hadn't been a joke either. And I was too scared to say it. And now I'm watching you with some guy who showed up 3 weeks ago, and I can't—" He stopped, realizing he was saying too much, but it was too late to pull back now. "I can't just stand here and watch you get hurt." The hallway was silent. Somewhere in the building, a door opened and closed. A dog barked. Vanessa's voice, when she spoke, was quiet. You don't get to do this. Do what? Show up now, after I put myself out there. After you made it clear you weren't interested. You don't get to suddenly care just because someone else does. It's not because of him. Yes, it is. You've had 6 years, Landon. 6 years to say something, anything. And you didn't, so don't stand here now and act like you're protecting me when really you're just jealous. Maybe I am jealous, he said. Maybe I've been jealous every single time you've dated someone because I was too much of a coward to tell you how I felt. But this isn't about that. This is about a guy who doesn't exist on paper, who's promising you exclusive opportunities that aren't real, who fits the exact profile of someone running a long con. You don't know that. You're right. I don't know for sure. But are you willing to bet $500,000 that I'm wrong? The door opened. Adrian stood there, looking between them with an expression that was trying very hard to seem concerned but came off as irritated. Everything okay out here? He asked. Fine, Vanessa said. Landon was just leaving. Actually, Landon said, looking directly at Adrian, I had a question for you. Adrian's smile was practiced. Sure. What's the address of the townhouse development? We're still finalizing the location. You're showing her proposals, but you haven't finalized the location? The project has multiple potential sites. Part of the investment strategy is determining which location offers the best return. It was a smooth answer, too smooth. And Pierce Development Group, Landon continued. Where's it registered? Delaware. Most development firms incorporate there for tax purposes. Right. And your business license number? Adrian's smile tightened fractionally. I don't carry that information around with me. That's weird. Most contractors I know can rattle off their license number in their sleep. I'm not a contractor. I'm an investment manager. Then what's your securities license number? Landon, Vanessa said sharply. That's enough. It's fine, Adrian said, still smiling. He's looking out for you. I respect that. But Vanessa, maybe we should finish reviewing the proposal another time. It's late, and clearly this isn't a good moment. He was good. Landon had to give him that, backing off at exactly the right moment to seem reasonable, making Landon look like the aggressive one. Adrian turned to Vanessa. I'll email you the full documentation tomorrow. You can review it on your own time. Do whatever due diligence you want. Fair? Vanessa nodded. That sounds good? Perfect. Adrian grabbed his jacket from inside the apartment, then leaned in and kissed Vanessa on the cheek, right in front of Landon. I'll call you tomorrow. He walked past Landon without another word, heading for the stairs. Landon and Vanessa stood in the hallway, alone again. Happy? She asked. No. Well, you got what you wanted. He's gone. Vanessa. I'm tired, Landon. I'm going to bed. Just promise me you'll look into him before you invest anything. Please. She looked at him for a long moment. Why do you care so much? Because I love you. Because I've loved you since the day you cried over kitchen counters, and I had no idea what to do except hand you a paper towel. Because watching you with him feels like someone slowly pulling my chest apart. Because I know I don't deserve you, but I can't stand the thought of someone hurting you. Because you're my best friend, he said. Something crossed her face. Disappointment, maybe. Or resignation. Right, she said. Your best friend. She went inside and closed the door. Landon stood in the empty hallway, listening to her lock click into place, and wondered how badly he'd just screwed everything up. He drove home and didn't sleep. Instead, he spent the rest of the night at his laptop, digging deeper into Adrian Pierce's background. The man was a ghost. No social media presence before 3 months ago. No employment history, no property ownership. Nothing that suggested he was a legitimate investment manager with access to exclusive real estate opportunities. By 6 a.m, Landon had compiled everything he'd found into a document. Screenshots of the fraud complaints, records showing no business registration for Pierce Development Group in Delaware or anywhere else, phone numbers for the women who'd filed complaints, in case Vanessa wanted to verify their stories directly. He sent it all to her in an email with the subject line, "Please read this." Then he went to work because he had a bathroom to finish and bills to pay and a life that didn't stop just because his heart was breaking. His crew noticed something was off immediately. "You look like hell," Martinez said, handing him coffee at the job site. "What happened?" "Nothing." "That's not nothing on your face. That's something. Personal stuff. Martinez studied him. The billionaire? Landon didn't answer, which was answer enough. You finally tell her? Martinez asked. Sort of. And? And she's seen someone else. Ah. Martinez nodded slowly. That's rough. They worked in silence for a while. Landon threw himself into demolition work, ripping out old tile with more force than necessary. Physical labor helped, gave him something to do with the anger and frustration that had nowhere else to go. Around noon, his phone buzzed. Email from Vanessa. We need to talk. Can you come by tonight? His heart jumped. He typed back. What time? 7 o'clock. And Landon? Adrian will be there. The hope that had started building in his chest immediately collapsed. He showed up at 7 sharp, still wearing his work clothes because he'd come straight from the job site. The apartment door was unlocked. He knocked anyway. Come in, Vanessa called. She was sitting at the dining table with Adrian, laptop open between them, papers spread out. They both looked up when Landon walked in. Thanks for coming, Vanessa said. Her voice was professional, distant. We wanted to address your concerns. Adrian gestured to the chair across from them. Have a seat. Landon stayed standing. Did you read what I sent you? I did, Vanessa said. And Adrian explained everything. Landon looked at Adrian, who smiled pleasantly. The complaints you found were filed against a different Adrian Pierce, he said. Wrong middle initial. I pulled up my driver's license to show Vanessa. Different birth date, different address. He slid a license across the table. Landon picked it up. Oregon license, issued last year. Adrian James Pierce. Birth date made him 38. It could be real. It could also be fake. Licenses weren't hard to forge if you knew the right people. And the business registration? Landon asked. Adrian opened the laptop and turned it so Landon could see. Business registration for Pierce Development Group, LLC, filed in Delaware 3 months ago. I've been building the company quietly, Adrian said. Selective client base. I don't need a big public presence. 3 months ago, right around the time his social media accounts had been created. And the permits for the townhouses? Landon asked. Filed under a different entity name for liability purposes, but I brought documentation. Adrian pulled out a folder and handed it to Vanessa. Permits, site plans, architectural renderings, everything. Vanessa opened the folder. Landon watched her expression as she looked through the documents. She seemed satisfied, relieved even. See, she said to Landon, it's legitimate. Landon wanted to grab those documents and tear through them line by line. Check the permit numbers against city records. Verify the architect's license. Call the bank listed on the investment information. But he could see in Vanessa's face that she'd already decided to believe Adrian's explanations. Can I see those? Landon asked, gesturing to the folder. Vanessa hesitated. Adrian answered for her. These are confidential investment documents, he said. I showed them to Vanessa because she's a potential investor, but I can't share proprietary information with third parties. I'm not a third party. I'm her friend. And I respect that. But this is business. Adrian's tone was pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Surely you understand confidentiality agreements. It was a neat trap. If Landon pushed harder, he'd look unreasonable. If he backed off, Adrian won. Vanessa, Landon said, can I talk to you alone? She glanced at Adrian, who shrugged like he didn't care either way. 5 minutes, she said. They went out onto the balcony. The river stretched out below them, reflecting the city lights. Landon had helped her pick out the furniture out here, too. 2 chairs and a small table. She'd wanted a place to drink coffee in the mornings. He's lying, Landon said once the door closed. You saw the documents. Documents can be faked. Business registrations can be filed with false information. Driver's licenses can be forged. So nothing would convince you? No matter what he shows me, you'll find a reason to doubt it? I want to verify it independently. Let me take the permit numbers and check them against city records. Let me call the architect listed on those plans. Give me 2 days to confirm this is real. Why would I do that when he's already shown me everything I need? Because he showed up 3 weeks ago, and now he's asking you to invest in a project that has almost no public footprint. Because wealthy people are exactly the targets these scams go after. Because you're vulnerable right now, and he knows it. Her expression hardened. Vulnerable. That came out wrong, Bob. No, I think it came out exactly how you meant it. You think I'm some naive billionaire who can't see when she's being manipulated. I think you're hurt, and that makes you an easier target. Hurt by what, Landon? By you making it very clear you don't see me that way? Yeah, that stung. But I'm not so desperate that I'd fall for a con artist just to prove something. That's not what I... You know what I think? She stepped closer, and there were tears in her eyes now. I think you're scared. I think you've kept me at arm's length for 6 years because it was safe. And now that someone else actually wants me, you can't handle it. So you're inventing reasons to doubt him. I'm not inventing anything. You don't get to do this, she said again. You don't get to play the hero now. I'm not trying to play anything. I'm trying to stop you from making a mistake. The only mistake I made was waiting for you. The words hit like a punch. Landon stood there on the balcony he'd helped her choose furniture for, looking at the woman he'd been in love with for 6 years, and realized he'd already lost her. If you invest with him and it goes wrong, he said quietly, I'll be here. You know that, right? I know you'll be here to say, I told you so. That's not... He stopped, took a breath. I love you, Vanessa. The words finally came out, but they landed wrong. Too late. Too tied up in arguments and accusations. She looked at him for a long moment. I don't believe you, she said. Then she went back inside, leaving him alone on the balcony. Landon stayed there for a while, hands gripping the railing, trying to figure out his next move. Through the glass door, he could see Vanessa and Adrian back at the table, talking, laughing, Adrian's hand on her shoulder. He left without saying goodbye. The next 2 days were torture. Vanessa didn't return his calls or texts. He drove past her apartment twice like a stalker, hating himself for it, but unable to stop. He called the architect listed on Adrian's documents, got a voicemail, left a message asking about the West Hills project. No callback. He checked the permit numbers against city records. They existed, but they were for a different project entirely. Single-family home renovation, not luxury townhouses. Wrong location, wrong scope, wrong everything. He tried calling Vanessa again. Straight to voicemail. On the 3rd day, he got a text from her. I'm investing with Adrian. I wanted you to hear it from me first. His hands shook as he typed back. How much? That's not your business. Vanessa, please don't do this. It's already done. I'm sorry you can't be happy for me. He stared at his phone, feeling physically sick. Then he called his lawyer. I need to know what legal options someone has if they realize they've been defrauded, he said. His lawyer, a woman named Patricia, who'd helped him with Emma's custody arrangements years ago, sounded concerned. What's going on? A friend is about to invest in a fake real estate project. I have evidence it's a scam, but she won't listen. Have they transferred money yet? I think so. She just texted me that it's done. Then she needs to contact the police and her bank immediately. If the money's still in the account, they might be able to freeze it. And if it's not? Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then it's probably gone. These operations move money fast. Offshore accounts, shell companies. By the time victims realize what happened, the money's usually unrecoverable. Landon felt like he was going to throw up. There has to be something. The best option is prevention. If your friend hasn't transferred money yet, tell her not to. If she has, she needs to act immediately. He thanked Patricia and hung up. Tried Vanessa again. Voicemail. He drove to her apartment. The lights were off. He called the front desk, claimed he was there to check on a maintenance issue. The concierge told him Miss Sterling had left that morning with luggage. Said she'd be gone for a few days. Did she say where? Landon asked. I'm not at liberty to share tenant information, sir. He sat in his truck outside her building, trying to think. Adrian had probably convinced her to go somewhere with him. Wine country, maybe. Or the coast. Somewhere romantic where she'd be isolated from friends who might talk her out of whatever she was doing. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Is this Landon Hayes? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. Yeah, who's this? My name is Jennifer Marsh. I got your number from a voicemail you left my office. You asked about a townhouse development in the West Hills? The architect. Yes, Landon said, sitting up straighter. Are you working on that project? That's why I'm calling. I'm not working on any project in the West Hills. Someone used my name and license number on fraudulent documents. Landon's heart started pounding. When did you find out? Yesterday. The city called me to verify some permit information and I had no idea what they were talking about. I've filed a police report. If you have any information about who's using my credentials, I need it. His name is Adrian Pierce. He showed these documents to a friend of mine to convince her to invest. Has she transferred any money? I think so. She needs to contact the police immediately. And her bank. I'm serious. This needs to happen today. I've been trying to reach her. She's not answering. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Then you need to find her. Because whoever this Adrian Pierce is, he's running a sophisticated fraud operation. And if your friend gave him money, she's in serious trouble. Landon thanked Jennifer and hung up, his mind already racing through options. He tried Vanessa's number again. Voicemail. He texted her. Urgent. Call me immediately. It's about Adrian. No response. He called her assistant, a competent woman named Diane, who'd worked for Vanessa for 3 years. Diane, it's Landon Hayes. I need to reach Vanessa. Do you know where she is? She took a few personal days. She didn't say where. Did she mention Adrian Pierce? There was a pause. She said she was going to look at a property with him, some investment opportunity. Why? Because he's a fraud. I need to reach her before she gives him any more money. Oh my... Diane's voice went tight with worry. She already transferred the initial deposit 2 days ago. She seemed so excited about it. Landon's stomach dropped. How much? I shouldn't... Diane, how much? $750,000. The number made him dizzy. $750,000. Gone. Probably already moved through a dozen shell accounts. Untraceable. Unrecoverable. Do you have any way to reach her? Landon asked. Friend's phone, hotel reservation, anything? She mentioned something about the coast. Cannon Beach, maybe? But I'm not sure. Cannon Beach was 2 hours away. 100 hotels and vacation rentals spread across miles of coastline. If she contacts you, tell her to call me immediately. Tell her it's an emergency. Is she in danger? Landon didn't know how to answer that. Vanessa wasn't in physical danger, probably. But danger came in different forms, the kind that emptied your bank accounts and left you feeling stupid and violated and betrayed. Just have her call me, he said. He hung up and sat in his truck, trying to think logically through the panic. Adrian had gotten $750,000. That might have been enough. He might be gone already, disappeared the way he had in Seattle and San Francisco and Vancouver. Or he might be going for more. Guys like Adrian didn't stop at the initial deposit if they thought they could get a bigger score. They built trust, created urgency, asked for additional investments to secure the opportunity or cover unexpected costs. If Adrian was still with Vanessa, still working on her, there might be time. Landon pulled out his phone and called Martinez. I need a favor, he said when the old man answered. Name it. I need you to run the crew for a few days. I have to leave town. The billionaire? Yeah. She in trouble? Yeah. Martinez didn't ask for details. Go. We got this. Landon went home, threw some clothes in a bag, and started driving toward the coast. On the way, he called Patricia back. If my friend realizes she's been scammed, what's the process? He asked. File a police report immediately. Contact her bank and try to reverse the transfer. Report it to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. And honestly, pray the money hasn't left the country yet. What are the odds of getting it back? Patricia's silence was answer enough. 5%, she finally said. Maybe less. These operations are designed to make recovery nearly impossible. Landon drove faster. The coast was cold and gray when he arrived, fog rolling in off the ocean in thick blankets. He started with the nicest hotels in Cannon Beach, showing Vanessa's photo on his phone to front desk staff, asking if they'd seen her. Nothing at the first 3 places. At the fourth, a boutique hotel overlooking Haystack Rock, the woman at the desk squinted at the photo and nodded. I think she checked in yesterday. With a man. They're in room 308. Landon's heart jumped. Are they here now? I can't give out guest information. I'm her brother, Landon lied. Family emergency. I need to reach her. The woman looked uncertain. Landon pulled out his phone and showed her the texts between him and Vanessa, the ones where she called him family, where she'd asked him to help with her apartment. Please, he said. It's important. The woman picked up the phone and dialed the room. Let it ring. No answer. They might be out, she said. There's a restaurant down the street they had reservations at tonight. The Wayfarer. Landon thanked her and headed out. The Wayfarer was a small seafood place with weathered wood siding and windows facing the ocean. He could see inside from the street. White tablecloths, candles, couples leaning across tables toward each other. He spotted Vanessa immediately. She was sitting by the window wearing a blue dress he'd never seen before. Her hair was down, catching the candlelight. Adrian sat across from her, holding her hand, saying something that made her smile. Landon stood on the sidewalk, freezing wind coming off the ocean, watching them through the window. He looked like a stalker. He felt like a stalker, but he couldn't leave. He waited until they finished dinner, watched Adrian pay the check, help Vanessa with her coat. They walked out together, Adrian's arm around her shoulders. "Vanessa," Landon called. She turned, and the smile fell off her face immediately. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "We need to talk." Adrian's expression went cold. "You followed us?" "I called the architect," Landon said, ignoring him. "Jennifer Marsh, she said someone's using her credentials on fraudulent documents. She's filed a police report." Vanessa's face paled slightly. "That doesn't mean—" The permit numbers on Adrian's paperwork belonged to a different project. Wrong location, wrong scope. I verified it with the city. "You're harassing us now," Adrian said. "This is insane." "Show her the real permits then," Landon said. "Right now. Pull them up on your phone. I don't have to prove anything to you." "Then prove it to her. If everything's legitimate, it should take 30 seconds. Adrian turned to Vanessa. "This is exactly what I was worried about. He can't let go. He's been in love with you for years, and he can't stand that you've moved on." "Don't," Landon said, his voice low and dangerous. "Don't make this about that." "It is about that, though, isn't it?" Adrian's smile was cruel now. "You had your chance. You blew it. And now you're trying to sabotage her happiness because you're jealous. I'm trying to save her from a con artist. I've shown her every document, fake documents, using stolen credentials, from a business that didn't exist 4 months ago." "Vanessa," Adrian said, his voice softening as he turned to her. "I know this is hard, but you have to see what he's doing. He's throwing out accusations with no proof because he wants to break us up." "I have proof," Landon said. "Jennifer Marsh will testify those aren't her plans. The city will confirm those permits are for a different project. Your business registration is brand new and lists an address that's a UPS store in Delaware." Adrian's expression flickered, just for a second, but Vanessa caught it. "Is that true?" she asked quietly. "About the address? Lots of businesses use registered agents. Is it a UPS store?" Adrian's jaw tightened. "The address is for a corporate services company, which is standard practice." "Show me," Vanessa said. "Pull up your business registration right now." "I don't have it on my phone." "Yes, you do. You showed it to me on your laptop 3 days ago. You said you keep everything in the cloud." The silence stretched out. A couple walking past gave them a curious look. "Vanessa," Adrian said carefully, "you're letting him get in your head. Show me." Something in her voice made it clear she wasn't asking anymore. Adrian's pleasant mask finally cracked. "You're seriously going to believe some jealous handyman over me?" "Contractor," Landon said. "Whatever. You think you're protecting her, but you're just—" "I transferred $750,000 to you," Vanessa interrupted, her voice shaking now. "Show me the business registration or I'm calling the police right now." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, but it didn't sound amused. It sounded cold. "You really want to do this?" he asked. "Fine." He pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, held it up to show a screen that looked like a business registration database. Vanessa squinted at it. "That's a screenshot." "It's a photo of the registration. Show me the actual website. Navigate to it right now." Adrian's expression went flat. "You know what? I don't have to stand here and be interrogated because your obsessed friend showed up." "Then leave," Vanessa said. "Leave right now and I'll know everything Landon said is true." "You're making a mistake." "Probably. But I've made bigger ones, like trusting you." Adrian's face changed completely. The charm disappeared, replaced by something hard and calculating. You're going to regret this. Is that a threat? Landon stepped forward, putting himself slightly between Adrian and Vanessa. It's a fact. You just screwed yourself out of the investment opportunity of a lifetime because you listened to a guy who fixes toilets for a living. I renovate historic properties, Landon said. But yeah, sometimes that involves toilets. Adrian ignored him, focused on Vanessa. I could have made you so much money. But instead, you're going to stay stuck in your sad little life, hanging around with, he gestured dismissively at Landon, whatever this is. I want my money back, Vanessa said, and her voice was stronger now. All of it, tomorrow. Adrian smiled, and it was the ugliest expression Landon had ever seen. Good luck with that, he said. Then he turned and walked away down the street, hands in his pockets, completely calm, like he'd just ended a business meeting instead of admitting to fraud. Vanessa stood there, shaking. Landon wanted to reach for her, but wasn't sure if he should. How much did you give him? He asked quietly. $750. Her voice was barely a whisper. The deposit for the townhouse investment. Okay, we can fix this. We need to call the police right now. I'm so stupid. She pressed her hands to her face. You tried to tell me and I didn't listen and I'm so... Hey, look at me. Landon gently pulled her hands away from her face. This is not your fault. These guys are professionals. They're good at what they do. I should have known. All the signs were there. You trusted someone. That's not a character flaw. It is when it costs $750,000. We're going to get it back, Landon said with more confidence than he felt. But we need to move fast. Where's your phone? She pulled it out with shaking hands. Landon dialed 911, then handed it to her. The Cannon Beach police arrived within 15 minutes, 2 officers who took their statement in the hotel lobby. Vanessa explained about the investment, the deposit, the fake documents, showed them the texts from Adrian, the bank transfer confirmation. One of the officers, a woman named Garrett, looked sympathetic but not optimistic. We'll file a report and put out a BOLO for Adrian Pierce, she said, but I have to be honest with you. If he's as professional as you're describing, he's probably already out of state, and the money's likely been moved. What about the bank? Vanessa asked. Can they reverse the transfer? You can try, but if it's been more than 24 hours, it's usually too late. It had been 2 days. Garrett took down all the information, gave Vanessa a case number, and promised to follow up. But Landon could see in her expression that she didn't expect to recover anything. After the police left, Vanessa and Landon sat in the hotel lobby, neither of them speaking. The fire in the fireplace crackled. Someone laughed at the bar. Normal sounds from a normal evening for people who weren't watching their lives fall apart. I need to call my bank, Vanessa said finally. Want me to stay or give you privacy? She looked at him, and there were tears on her face now. Stay. The conversation with the bank took 45 minutes. Vanessa on hold transferred between departments, explaining the situation over and over to different people who all said variations of the same thing. The transfer had been processed. The funds were gone. There was nothing they could do. When she finally hung up, she looked hollow. They said I authorized the transfer, she said. Which I did. So there's no fraud from the bank's perspective. It's a civil matter. We can sue him. For what? He doesn't exist. Adrian Pierce is probably a fake name. The business is registered to a P.O. box. There's nothing to sue. She was right, but Landon didn't want to admit it. I'm so sorry, he said. Why are you apologizing? You tried to warn me. I should have tried harder. You drove 2 hours in the middle of the night to stop me. You couldn't have done more. She wiped her eyes roughly. I'm the idiot who gave a con artist $750,000 because I was hurt and stupid and... Stop. You're not stupid, and you weren't wrong about why you were hurt. Vanessa looked at him. What? The furniture store. When you said you wished it hadn't been a joke. You were right. I was scared. I've been scared for 6 years because falling in love with you felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, and I kept telling myself it was better to stay safe than risk everything. Landon, and then Adrian showed up and I watched you with him, and it killed me. Not just because I was jealous, but because I knew I'd wasted so much time being a coward. You're not a coward. You're the only person who saw through him. I should have seen you, really seen you, instead of hiding behind jokes and this idea that we were too different to work. Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. The fire popped. Someone at the bar ordered another round. I gave him $750,000 because I was trying to prove I didn't need you, she said finally. I was hurt and angry, and when Adrian came along and seemed interested, I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe someone could want me without it being complicated or scary or... She stopped. I knew something was off from the beginning, but I ignored it because ignoring it felt better than admitting you didn't want me the same way. I did want you. I do want you. I've wanted you since you cried over kitchen counters because someone finally built you something that felt like home. Then why didn't you say anything? Because you're a billionaire and I'm a contractor with a kid and a mortgage. Because you go to charity galas and I haven't bought a suit in 10 years. Because every guy you've ever dated looks like they stepped out of a magazine and I look like I stepped out of a construction site. I don't care about any of that. I know, but I did. I let it matter more than it should have. Vanessa reached across the space between them and took his hand. Her fingers were cold. I don't know how to fix this, she said quietly. The money's gone. Adrian's gone. And I feel like the world's biggest fool. You're not. And we'll figure it out. Maybe the FBI can track him. Maybe he'll make a mistake. Maybe nothing. He's done this before and gotten away with it. He'll do it again to someone else, and I'll just be another idiot who didn't see it coming. Landon squeezed her hand. Then we make sure other people see it coming. We go public with what happened. Warn people. Make it harder for him to do this again. Great. So everyone will know I'm an idiot billionaire who got scammed. Or they'll know you're someone who trusted the wrong person and is brave enough to help others avoid the same mistake. Vanessa looked at him, really looked at him, and some of the hollowness in her expression eased slightly. When did you get so smart? She asked. I've been hanging around this brilliant woman for 6 years. Some of it must have rubbed off. She almost smiled. Almost. They sat there for a while longer, hands linked, watching the fire burn down to embers. Eventually, Vanessa said she should probably try to sleep, even though she doubted she'd be able to. Do you want me to stay? Landon asked. I can get a room. Just be here if you need anything. You don't have to. I want to. She nodded. Okay. The hotel didn't have any available rooms. Tourist season, the front desk apologized. Everything was booked. It's fine, Landon said. I'll sleep in my truck. Don't be ridiculous. My room has 2 beds. Vanessa, it's late. You drove 2 hours and I don't want to be alone. Just take the other bed. So he did. They went up to room 308, the room Adrian had shared with her just hours ago, which felt wrong and uncomfortable, but there was nothing to be done about it. Vanessa disappeared into the bathroom. Landon heard water running, the sound of her brushing her teeth, then silence. When she came out, she was wearing pajamas and her face was scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked young and tired and beautiful. She climbed into her bed. Landon took off his boots and stretched out on top of the covers of the other bed, still fully dressed. You can get under the blankets, Vanessa said. You don't have to sleep in your jeans. I'm fine. Landon, yeah? Thank you for coming, for believing me even when I didn't believe you. Always. She was quiet for a moment. Then, do you think we can fix this? Not just the money. Us. Landon thought about the 6 years they'd wasted, the chances they'd missed, the ways they'd both hidden behind fear and assumption. Yeah, he said. I think we can. How? By stopping lying to ourselves about what we want. And what do you want? He could have deflected, made a joke, changed the subject. But he'd spent 6 years doing that and it had gotten him nowhere. You, he said simply. I want you. The late-night dinners and the arguments about furniture and the way you cry over kitchen counters. I want to wake up next to you and fix your shelves when they fall down and watch you try to cook, even though you're terrible at it. I want everything, not your money, not your status, just you. Vanessa was crying again, but quietly this time. I'm terrible at cooking, she said. The worst. And my shelves fall down a lot. I've noticed. And I just lost $750,000 to a con artist. Nobody's perfect. She laughed through the tears, which was probably the goal. They lay there in the dark, in separate beds in a hotel room on the Oregon coast, and for the first time in 6 years, neither of them was pretending. Landon, Vanessa said after a while. Yeah? I love you too. In case that wasn't clear. It was clear, had probably been clear for years, but hearing her say it still made his chest tight. Get some sleep, he said. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. But tomorrow came with complications neither of them expected. Landon woke up to his phone buzzing. Text from an unknown number. You cost me a big score. That's going to be a problem. He sat up, suddenly wide awake. Vanessa was still asleep in the other bed, curled on her side. Another text. Tell your girlfriend to watch her back. Landon's blood went cold. He screenshot the messages and forwarded them to Officer Garrett, then called her directly. He's threatening her, Landon said when she answered. I'll send a unit to the hotel, Garrett said. Don't leave the room until they arrive. Landon woke Vanessa and showed her the texts. The fear in her eyes made him want to punch something. He knows where we are, she said. He knew what hotel you were staying at. But we can move. Get you somewhere safe. Safe from what? He's not going to... She stopped. He wouldn't actually hurt me, right? Landon didn't know. Adrian had seemed like the kind of guy who'd cut his losses and run, but people got unpredictable when they felt cornered. And Landon showing up had definitely cornered him. The police arrived within 20 minutes. They took statements, documented the threats, and recommended Vanessa return to Portland immediately. We'll increase patrols around your residence, Garrett said, and I'd suggest varying your routine for a while. Don't go places alone. Let people know where you are. They drove back to Portland in silence, Vanessa following in her car while Landon led the way. He kept checking his rearview mirror, looking for any vehicle that might be tailing them. Probably paranoid, but Adrian had proven he was good at staying invisible when he wanted to be. When they got back to the city, Landon followed Vanessa to her apartment building, walked her up to her door, checked inside to make sure everything was secure. I can stay, he offered. Sleep on your couch. Just until we know he's really gone. Vanessa looked around her apartment, the one they'd furnished together, the one Adrian had mocked, the one that now felt violated by his presence in it. I don't want to stay here, she said quietly. Where do you want to go? She looked at him. Wherever you are. Landon's house was a small craftsman bungalow in southeast Portland that he'd bought as a foreclosure 8 years ago and had been slowly renovating ever since. The kitchen was half finished, the bathroom still had the original pink tile from 1952, and the back porch was held up mostly by Hope and 2x4s. But it was his and Emma's, and it had never felt inadequate until he pulled into the driveway with a billionaire in the car behind him. Vanessa parked on the street and got out, carrying an overnight bag. She looked at the house with an expression Landon couldn't quite read. It's not much, he said. It's perfect, she said, and he realized she meant it. Inside, the living room was cluttered with Emma's art projects and his work boots, and a stack of lumber samples he'd been meaning to put away for 3 weeks. Vanessa set her bag down and looked around like she was seeing something precious. You built that shelf, she said, pointing to the bookcase along the wall. Yeah, it's crooked. It has character. That's a nice way of saying I screwed up the measurements. She smiled, and it was the first real smile he'd seen from her since Cannon Beach. I like it anyway. Landon showed her the guest room, Emma's room technically, but his daughter was still at Rachel's for 2 more days. The walls were painted purple because Emma had insisted, and there were glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling that Landon had spent an entire evening arranging into constellations that weren't remotely accurate. This is her room? Vanessa asked. Yeah, sorry about the color. Don't apologize. It's brave. She set her bag on the bed. Does she know about me? She knows we're friends. She asks sometimes why you're not my girlfriend. What do you tell her? That it's complicated. Vanessa sat down on the edge of Emma's bed, under the crooked stars. Is it still complicated? Landon leaned against the door frame. I don't know. You just lost $750,000 and got threatened by a con artist. Probably not the best time to figure out relationship stuff. Or maybe it's exactly the right time. Life doesn't wait for perfect moments. No, Landon agreed. It really doesn't. They ordered takeout because neither of them felt like cooking and ate it sitting on Landon's worn couch with the TV on low, not really watching whatever was playing. Vanessa kept checking her phone, monitoring her bank accounts, reading updates from the police, forwarding information to her lawyer. Anything? Landon asked. No, it's like he disappeared. The police checked the hotel where we were staying and he'd already checked out. Paid in cash, fake ID. There's no trace of him. What about the bank account you sent the money to? Closed. The funds were transferred out within hours, and the account was shut down the next day. Where'd the money go? Offshore. The Caymans, my bank thinks, but they can't confirm without international cooperation, and that takes weeks or months. She set her phone down. It's gone, Landon. I need to accept that. We can hire a private investigator. With what money? I just lost $750,000. He knew she was being sarcastic. Vanessa Sterling had money that made $750,000 look like pocket change. But that wasn't the point. The point was she felt violated and stupid and scared, and throwing more money at the problem wouldn't fix those feelings. I'm sorry, he said. Stop apologizing. You didn't do this. I should have stopped it sooner. You tried. I didn't listen. She pulled her knees up to her chest, making herself small on his couch. I keep replaying it in my head, all the warning signs I ignored, the way he showed up out of nowhere, how he always had an answer for everything, the fact that he seemed too good to be true. That's what they count on. People wanting to believe. I wanted to believe someone could want me without all the baggage, without the money and the comparisons and the expectations. She looked at him. Without 6 years of history. Landon moved closer, close enough that their shoulders touched. The history isn't baggage, he said. It's the whole point. Anyone can want you for a few weeks. I've wanted you for 6 years. Through the bad haircut you got in 2021 and the time you tried to install your own ceiling fan and nearly electrocuted yourself. Through every terrible date you went on and every time you called me at 2 a.m. because you couldn't sleep. That was once. It was 4 times. Okay, 4 times. But who's counting? Me. I've been counting everything. Every coffee you brought to the job site, every time you laughed at my terrible jokes, every furniture store and estate sale and late-night dinner. I've been counting it all because I was too scared to admit what it meant. Vanessa leaned her head on his shoulder. She smelled like hotel shampoo and something floral he couldn't name. What did it mean? She asked quietly. It meant I was falling in love with you in the slowest, most pathetic way possible. 1 shelf at a time. She was crying again. Landon was starting to recognize the different kinds of crying. The angry kind from the hotel, the scared kind from this morning, and this one, which felt different, softer somehow. I'm a mess, she said. Yeah. That's supposed to be the part where you say, no, you're not. You asked me to stop lying. She laughed despite the tears. Fair point. They sat there while the takeout containers got cold, and the TV cycled through shows neither of them cared about. Eventually, Vanessa fell asleep, still leaning against him. Landon didn't move. His shoulder went numb and his back started to ache, but he stayed exactly where he was, watching her breathe, thinking about all the ways this could still go wrong. His phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. She's not safe anywhere. Landon's jaw tightened. He screenshot it and forwarded it to Officer Garrett, then deleted the message so Vanessa wouldn't see it if she looked at his phone. She didn't need more fear on top of everything else. He must have dozed off eventually because he woke up to sunlight coming through the windows and Vanessa gone from the couch. Panic hit him for about 3 seconds before he heard sounds from the kitchen. He found her standing at his stove, attempting to make eggs. The attempt was not going well. Those are burnt, he said. She jumped, spatula clattering against the pan. I was trying to make breakfast. I can see that, but you're burning my kitchen. It's harder than it looks. Everything's harder than it looks when you're you. She glared at him, but there was no heat in it. I'm trying to be helpful. You want to be helpful? Move. He took the spatula from her and assessed the damage. The eggs were beyond saving. He scraped them into the trash and started over. Vanessa sat at his small kitchen table, watching him cook. Where'd you learn to do that? YouTube, mostly, and necessity. Emma has to eat and I can't afford takeout every night. Your daughter's lucky. My daughter's 7 and thinks mac and cheese is a vegetable. I'm not winning any parenting awards. You're doing it alone. That counts for something. Landon plated the eggs and set them in front of her with toast and coffee. She took a bite and made a sound that was almost happy. This is really good, she said. It's eggs, don't get excited. Still better than anything I could make. They ate in comfortable silence. Outside, Landon could hear his neighbor mowing the lawn. Normal sounds from a normal morning. It felt surreal given everything that had happened in the past week. I should probably go home, Vanessa said eventually. Check my apartment, deal with all the calls my lawyer keeps leaving. Or you could stay here, just until the police confirm Adrian's left town. Landon, I'm serious. You've got a psycho con artist threatening you. I've got a guest room and a door that locks. Makes sense. What about Emma? She comes home in 2 days. Then you'll meet her. Officially. Vanessa set down her fork. As what? Your friend? Your girlfriend? The woman who's hiding out in her bedroom? As the woman I'm in love with who happens to be staying here for a while. We'll figure out the details as we go. That's your plan? Wing it? I've been winging it with you for 6 years. Seems to be working so far. She smiled despite herself. You're ridiculous. Yeah, but you love me anyway. I'm starting to question my judgment. Too late. You already admitted it. Vanessa stayed. They fell into a strange domestic rhythm over the next 2 days. Landon went to work sites while Vanessa worked remotely from his dining room table, fielding calls from her lawyer and the FBI agent who'd been assigned to her case. The agent, a sharp woman named Chen, wasn't optimistic about recovering the money, but promised to add Adrian Pierce to multiple databases and watch lists. He'll surface eventually, Chen told Vanessa during one call. These guys can't stay invisible forever. They get greedy, they make mistakes. We'll catch him. And my money? Vanessa asked. I won't lie to you. The money's probably gone. But we can make sure he doesn't do this to anyone else. It wasn't the answer she wanted, but it was honest. Landon respected that. In the evenings, they cooked together, or rather, Landon cooked while Vanessa attempted to help, and mostly just got in the way. They watched movies on his couch. They talked about everything and nothing. They didn't talk about what happened next, after the crisis passed, after normal life resumed. That felt too big to tackle yet. On the third day, Rachel brought Emma home. Landon had warned Emma that morning that Vanessa would be there. His daughter had responded by asking 67 questions in rapid succession, most of which boiled down to, is she going to be my mom now? It's not that simple, Bug, Landon had said. Why not? Because grown-up relationships are complicated. That's what you always say. About everything. Because it's always true. When Emma burst through the front door that afternoon, she spotted Vanessa immediately and froze. Hi, Vanessa said, looking suddenly nervous in a way Landon had never seen her look in board meetings or business negotiations. You must be Emma. Emma stared at her with the intense, evaluating expression that 7-year-olds specialized in. You're pretty, Emma said finally. Thank you. So are you. Are you my dad's girlfriend? Emma, Landon warned. What? I'm just asking. Vanessa glanced at Landon, then back at Emma. I'm his friend, a very good friend. But do you love him? Emma, it's okay, Vanessa said. Then to Emma, yes, I do. Emma considered this. Does he love you back? I hope so. He does, Emma said matter-of-factly. He talks about you all the time. It's annoying. Rachel, who'd been standing in the doorway with Emma's bag, laughed. Okay, that's my cue to leave. Landon, call me later. After Rachel left, Emma appointed herself Vanessa's tour guide, showing her every corner of the house with detailed commentary. The living room where they built forts, the kitchen where Dad once caught a pancake on fire, the backyard where they were growing tomatoes that probably wouldn't make it. Vanessa listened to all of it with the kind of attention she probably gave to quarterly earnings reports, asking questions and laughing in the right places. Landon watched them together and felt something in his chest pull tight. Later, after Emma was in bed, Landon found Vanessa on the back porch, sitting on the steps, looking up at the sky. The porch light was broken, had been for 6 months, so the only illumination came from the neighbor's yard. She's wonderful, Vanessa said when Landon sat down beside her. She's a handful. She's smart and funny and completely unfiltered. I like her. She likes you too. She told me you're the prettiest of all my friends. How many friends does she think you have? Good point. You're basically competing with Martinez and a couple guys from my crew. Vanessa laughed. The sound carried across the yard, mixing with crickets and distant traffic. I've been thinking, she said after a while. Dangerous. I'm serious. I've been thinking about what happens next. When this is over, When Adrian's caught or disappears for good and life goes back to normal. What about it? I don't want normal. Not the old normal, anyway. Landon waited. Let her work through whatever she was trying to say. I've spent 6 years building a life that looked impressive on paper, Vanessa continued. The right apartment, the right investments, the right connections. And none of it mattered. None of it stopped me from falling for a con artist or feeling completely alone. You're not alone. I know. Because of you. Because you drove 2 hours in the middle of the night and called architects and verified permits and refused to let me make the biggest mistake of my life. She turned to look at him. You've been the most important person in my world for years, and I kept trying to find someone else to fill that space because I was too scared to admit what I really wanted. What do you really want? This. Burnt eggs and crooked shelves and a 7-year-old telling me I'm pretty. I want late-night dinners and arguments about furniture and someone who sees me as just Vanessa, not Vanessa Sterling with $3 billion. Landon took her hand, threading their fingers together. I can give you all of that except the money part, he said. I'm pretty broke. I don't care about money. You say that now, but wait until you see what contractors make. Landon. Yeah? Shut up and kiss me. So he did. Right there on his broken back porch, with the neighbor's dog barking and Emma probably not actually asleep upstairs, he kissed Vanessa Sterling like he'd been wanting to kiss her for 6 years. She tasted like the coffee they'd shared after dinner, and something sweet he couldn't name, and when they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. That was, Vanessa started. Yeah. We should have done that years ago. Probably. Why didn't we? Because I'm an idiot, and you're terrifying. She laughed and kissed him again, softer this time. When they separated, she leaned her head on his shoulder, fitting against him like furniture they'd chosen together. What do we tell Emma? She asked. The truth. That I'm in love with you and you're in love with me, and we're going to figure out the rest as we go. That's your whole plan? Still just winging it? Do you have a better one? No, she admitted, but I've never been good at winging things. I like plans and spreadsheets and knowing exactly what's going to happen. How's that working out for you so far? She elbowed him. Point taken. They sat there until the cold drove them inside. Upstairs, Landon checked on Emma and found her actually asleep this time, starfished across her bed with her blankets kicked off. He covered her up and stood there for a moment, looking at his daughter and thinking about how much his life was about to change. In the guest room, Vanessa was already in bed, reading something on her phone. She looked up when Landon appeared in the doorway. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just thinking. About? About how I spent 6 years convinced we didn't make sense. You with your money and your world, me with my work boots and my mortgage, and how stupid all of that seems now. It's not stupid, it's scary. Letting yourself want something that feels impossible. It doesn't feel impossible anymore. No, Vanessa agreed. It doesn't. Landon stood there for another moment, then said, Good night, Vanessa. Wait. She set her phone down. Stay. Emma's across the hall. I don't mean like that. I just mean stay. I don't want to be alone. So Landon grabbed a pillow from the linen closet and stretched out on top of the covers next to her. Vanessa turned off the light and moved closer, her head finding the space between his shoulder and chest that seemed designed for exactly that purpose. This is weird, she said. What is? Being happy. After everything that happened. I should be devastated about the money, terrified about Adrian, spiraling about all my bad decisions. Are you? A little, but mostly I'm just happy. Is that wrong? No, it's human. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe there isn't another shoe. Maybe this is just what it is. She was quiet for a while. Then, Landon? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me. I couldn't give up on you if I tried. Promise? Promise. She fell asleep first, her breathing evening out against his chest. Landon lay there in the dark, listening to the house settle around them, and thought about crooked shelves and burnt eggs and all the imperfect things that somehow added up to exactly right. His phone buzzed. Another text from Adrian's number. Enjoy it while it lasts. Landon deleted it without responding. Whatever Adrian Pierce was trying to do, scare them, intimidate them, get some final twisted satisfaction, it wasn't going to work. He'd already lost. The money was gone, but Vanessa was safe, and Landon had finally stopped being a coward. The next morning brought news. Officer Garrett called while Landon was making breakfast, and Emma was showing Vanessa her rock collection. "We got a hit on Adrian Pierce," Garrett said. "TSA flagged him trying to board a flight to Panama City yesterday. He's in custody." Landon's hand tightened on his phone. "He's arrested?" "For now. We're holding him on fraud charges, but his lawyer's already fighting extradition since the crime occurred in Oregon and he was arrested in California." "What does that mean?" "It means it's going to be a legal mess, but at least he's not out there threatening you anymore," Landon told Vanessa after Emma went outside to play. She took the news quietly, processing. "Does this mean I might get the money back?" she asked. Garrett didn't say, but at least he's off the streets. For now. Until his lawyer gets him out or he makes bail or whatever happens in these cases. She sat down at the kitchen table, looking tired. "I don't know how to feel about this." "You don't have to know. You can just feel it. I'm angry and relieved and still stupid for falling for it in the first place." "You're not stupid. Everyone's going to think I am when this goes public. Billionaire heiress scammed out of $750,000. It'll be headlines for weeks. So let it be headlines. Let other people learn from it. Maybe it saves someone else." Vanessa looked at him. "When did you become so wise?" "I'm not wise. I just stopped caring what other people think about us." "Us?" she repeated. "I like the sound of that." "Yeah?" "Yeah." Emma burst back in through the door, carrying a rock she insisted looked exactly like a heart. Vanessa agreed enthusiastically and asked if she could keep it. Emma said yes, but only if Vanessa promised to treasure it forever. "I promise," Vanessa said solemnly. Landon watched them negotiate the terms of rock ownership and felt something settle in his chest. This was his life now. Burnt breakfasts and rock collections, and a woman who'd spent 6 years in his orbit finally finding her way home. It wasn't perfect. The money was still gone, Adrian was still out there somewhere in the legal system, and they had years of complications to work through. But standing in his crooked kitchen with the people he loved most in the world, Landon realized perfect wasn't the point. The point was showing up, being honest, building something together one shelf at a time, even if those shelves were crooked. The point was love that didn't quit, even when it got scared. And finally, after 6 years of hiding, Landon Hayes was done being scared. The legal process moved slower than Landon expected and faster than Vanessa feared. Adrian Pierce, if that was even his real name, fought extradition for 3 weeks before a judge ruled against him. By then, the story had leaked to the press exactly the way Vanessa predicted it would. Tech heiress, scammed in romance fraud, ran in the Oregonian. Billionaire falls for con artist's luxury real estate scheme appeared in the business section of the Wall Street Journal. The comment sections were predictably brutal. Half the people said she deserved it for being rich and stupid. The other half used it as proof that women couldn't handle money. Landon watched Vanessa read through the articles one morning at his kitchen table, her coffee going cold, her expression carefully neutral. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm a headline. That's new." "You've been in headlines before, those tech conference things?" "That was different. That was business. This is..." She gestured at her laptop. "This is people I've never met calling me an idiot. People who've never had $750,000 to lose in the first place. That doesn't make it better." "No," Landon agreed, "but it doesn't make them right either." Emma wandered in, still in her pajamas, and climbed into Vanessa's lap without asking. She'd been doing that more over the past few weeks, treating Vanessa like furniture she had every right to use. Vanessa had stopped looking surprised by it. "What's wrong?" Emma asked, looking at Vanessa's face. "Nothing, sweetheart. You look sad." "I'm just reading something boring." Emma squinted at the laptop screen. "That's a lot of words. Are they mean words?" Vanessa glanced at Landon, who shrugged. They hadn't explicitly told Emma what happened, but kids picked up on things. "Some of them are mean," Vanessa admitted. "Then stop reading them. That's what Dad tells me when kids at school say mean stuff." "That's good advice." "I know. I'm smart." Emma slid off Vanessa's lap and headed for the cereal cabinet. "Dad, can I have the chocolate kind?" "It's Saturday. Go crazy." After Emma disappeared into the living room with her cereal and the tablet, Vanessa closed her laptop. She's right, she said. I should stop reading them. Probably, but you won't. How do you know? Because I know you. You're going to read every single article and every single comment until you've convinced yourself you deserve this. Vanessa's expression flickered. I did deserve it. I ignored every warning sign. I let my feelings cloud my judgment. I made a stupid mistake and lost $750,000. You trusted someone who lied to you. That's not the same as being stupid. Tell that to the internet. The internet also thinks the earth is flat and birds aren't real. Not exactly a reliable source. She almost smiled. Almost. Agent Chen called that afternoon with an update. Adrian Pierce was actually a man named Marcus Feldman with a criminal record spanning 12 years in 4 states. He'd run similar scams on at least 9 other victims, only one of whom had ever reported it. The others had been too embarrassed or too wealthy to care about the loss. We're building a strong case, Chen said over speakerphone. But I need to prepare you. The money is gone. We traced it through 6 different accounts in 3 countries before it disappeared into cryptocurrency. Recovery is essentially impossible. Vanessa had expected this, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. Landon watched her face go carefully blank, the expression she probably used in board meetings when deals fell through. What about the other victims? Vanessa asked. Are they willing to testify? 2 of them, yes. The others want to stay anonymous. I'll testify, whatever you need. After the call ended, Vanessa sat very still on Landon's couch. Outside, Emma was playing in the backyard with the neighbor's kid. Their laughter carried through the open window. $750,000, Vanessa said quietly. Just gone. Yeah, I could have done so much with that money. Donated it, invested it in something real, helped people who actually needed it. You still can, with other money. That's not the point. Landon sat down beside her. What is the point? The point is I gave it to a liar who's probably already spent it on something ridiculous. The point is, I let myself be manipulated because I was hurt and angry and desperate to prove something that didn't need proving. She looked at him. The point is, I screwed up in a very public, very expensive way, and now everyone knows it. Everyone already knew you had money. Now they know you're human too. Seems like a fair trade. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one getting called an idiot billionaire in national publications. No, I'm just the contractor who was too chicken shit to tell you I loved you for 6 years. We've all got our failures. Vanessa leaned against him, and Landon put his arm around her shoulders. They sat like that while Emma's laughter continued outside, and the afternoon stretched into evening. The preliminary hearing happened 3 weeks later in a courthouse downtown that smelled like floor polish and anxiety. Vanessa wore a navy suit that probably cost more than Landon's truck. Her lawyer, a sharp woman named Catherine, who looked like she ate opposing counsel for breakfast, had coached her on how to testify. Keep it factual, Catherine had said. Don't editorialize, don't speculate, just state what happened. Landon sat in the gallery with Martinez, who'd taken the afternoon off work to provide moral support. Emma was with Rachel, who'd promised to keep her distracted with a movie and excessive amounts of ice cream. Marcus Feldman, Adrian Pierce, was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked smaller than Landon remembered, less polished. Prison had stripped away the expensive-looking veneer, leaving just an ordinary-looking man with thinning hair and calculating eyes. When those eyes landed on Vanessa, something cold moved across Feldman's face. Not quite a smile, more like satisfaction. Landon's hands tightened into fists. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. Jennifer Marsh testified about the stolen credentials. An FBI forensic accountant walked through the money trail. Other victims, 2 women who'd lost similar amounts, told their stories with varying degrees of composure. Then it was Vanessa's turn. She walked to the stand with her head up, was sworn in, and sat down without fidgeting. Catherine led her through the timeline, how they'd met, the investment proposal, the transfer of funds, the discovery that it was all fake. And when did you first suspect something was wrong? Catherine asked. When Landon Hayes, my friend, brought me evidence that the business registration was recent and the permits didn't match the project description. But you didn't believe him initially. No. Why not? Vanessa's eyes flicked to Landon, then back to Catherine. Because I was emotionally compromised. I'd developed feelings for Mr. Feldman, and I wanted to believe he was legitimate. Feldman's lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit, stood for cross-examination. Ms. Sterling, you're a billionaire, correct? I have significant assets, yes. Would you say $750,000 is a significant amount of money to you? Catherine objected. Relevance goes to credibility, Your Honor. If this amount is negligible to the witness, it raises questions about whether actual fraud occurred or if this is simply a business deal gone sour. The judge allowed it. $750,000 is significant to anyone, Vanessa said carefully. But yes, I have the resources to absorb the loss without financial hardship. So this lawsuit isn't about the money? It's about holding someone accountable for fraud. Or is it about a romantic relationship that ended badly and a wealthy woman who didn't like being rejected? Catherine shot to her feet. Objection. Argumentative and mischaracterizes the testimony. Sustained. Mr. Morrison, ask questions, don't make speeches. But the damage was done. Feldman's lawyer had planted the seed, that this was about a woman scorned, not fraud. The hearing lasted 3 hours. At the end, the judge ruled there was sufficient evidence to proceed to trial and denied bail. Feldman would remain in custody. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Vanessa's publicist, a woman she'd hired specifically for this, ran interference while Catherine made a brief statement about seeking justice for fraud victims. Landon waited by his truck, giving Vanessa space to deal with the media circus. Martinez stood beside him, watching the scene with the weary expression of someone who'd seen too much of life's ugly side. She's tough, Martinez said. Yeah. You doing okay? I'm not the one on trial. No, but you're the one watching someone you love get torn apart on the news. That's its own kind of hard. Vanessa finally extracted herself from the reporters and walked to where Landon was parked. She looked exhausted. Take me home, she said. Your place or mine? Whichever one has Emma in it. They picked up Emma from Rachel's and drove back to Landon's house. Emma chattered about the movie she'd seen, something with talking animals, while Vanessa stared out the window, not really responding. After Emma went to bed, Landon found Vanessa on the back porch again. She'd claimed that spot as hers over the past month, the place she went when she needed to think. His lawyer tried to make it sound like I'm doing this because he dumped me, she said without preamble. I know, I was there. What if people believe that? Some people will believe whatever confirms what they already thought. Doesn't make it true. It doesn't make it false either. I did have feelings for him. I was hurt when you didn't seem interested, and he showed up at exactly the right moment. He's a professional. That's what they do. They find vulnerable people and exploit them. I was vulnerable because of you. The words hung in the air between them. Not quite an accusation, but close. I know, Landon said quietly. If you'd just told me how you felt when I said I wished it hadn't been a joke, none of this would have happened. I wouldn't have been looking for someone else. Adrian wouldn't have gotten his hooks in. I'd still have my money and my dignity, and I'd still be a coward who was too scared to risk losing you to actually have you. Vanessa turned to look at him. There were tears on her face, reflecting the neighbor's porch light. I'm not blaming you, she said. I'm angry, and I don't know where to put it. I can't be angry at Adrian because he's exactly what he's always been. I can't be angry at myself because I'm already drowning in that. So sometimes it spills over onto you, and that's not fair. I can take it. You shouldn't have to. Landon sat down beside her on the steps. You know what I keep thinking about? What? That furniture store. When the owner called you, my wife and I laughed it off instead of being honest. I think about that moment a lot. How different everything might have been if I'd just said what I was feeling. We can't change it now, no. But we can learn from it. He took her hand. So here's what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling like watching you testify today was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I'm feeling grateful that you're here instead of still at that hotel with a con artist. I'm feeling worried about how this trial is going to affect you. And I'm feeling like no matter how many headlines call you stupid or gullible or whatever else they want to say, I'm still going to love you tomorrow, and the day after that, and every day until I physically can't anymore. Vanessa was crying harder now, the kind of crying that came from somewhere deep. I don't know how to stop feeling ashamed, she whispered. You don't have to stop. You just have to not let it be the only thing you feel. What else is there? Emma asked me to teach her how to make pancakes tomorrow because she wants to make breakfast for you. Martinez told me today that the whole crew thinks I'm an idiot for waiting 6 years to tell you I loved you. Your lawyer said you were the most composed witness she's had in a fraud case. You got a dozen letters this week from other women thanking you for speaking publicly about what happened to you. I also got letters calling me a gold-digging slut who deserved to be robbed. Those people are idiots who don't know how to read. You inherited your money. There's nothing to dig. She laughed despite the tears. That's your takeaway? I'm just saying, if you're going to get hate mail, at least make sure it's accurate hate mail. They sat on the porch until the cold drove them inside, same as they had a dozen times before. But tonight felt different somehow. Heavier. Like they were standing at another crossroads, and whatever happened next would matter in ways they couldn't quite predict. The trial took 6 weeks to unfold. Landon attended every day he could, sitting in the gallery with Martinez or Rachel, or sometimes just by himself, watching Vanessa maintain her composure while lawyers tore apart every decision she'd made. The defense tried to paint her as a vindictive ex-lover. The prosecution methodically dismantled that narrative with evidence, fake permits, stolen credentials, testimonies from other victims who'd never had romantic relationships with Feldman. When the verdict came back guilty on all counts, Vanessa didn't cry or celebrate. She just nodded once, like she was checking something off a very long list. Feldman was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. The judge recommended he serve at least 8 before being eligible for parole. Does this feel like justice? Landon asked her afterward. I don't know what justice feels like, but it feels like closure. The money was never recovered. Agent Chen had been right. Once cryptocurrency got involved, the trail went cold. Vanessa's lawyer explored civil suits, but Feldman had no assets to seize. Everything he'd stolen was gone, spent or hidden somewhere they'd never find it. Vanessa handled the loss the way she handled everything, practically, methodically, with the kind of grace that came from years of having to appear unshakable. She donated an equivalent amount to a fraud victim support organization. She spoke at a conference about financial literacy and emotional manipulation. She turned her mistake into something useful because that was what Vanessa Sterling did when life handed her broken pieces. But there were still hard days. Days when she'd read another article dissecting her judgment. Days when the shame felt bigger than the relief. Days when she'd wonder out loud if she'd ever stop feeling stupid. On one of those days, about 3 months after the trial ended, Landon came home from work to find Vanessa sitting in his living room with Emma, building something elaborate out of blocks. What's this? He asked. A castle, Emma said, with a tower for the princess. Vanessa doesn't need a tower, she needs a workshop. Princesses can have workshops, Vanessa said. This one's building her own furniture. That's going to be a very crooked castle then, Emma giggled. Vanessa threw a block at him. After Emma went to bed, they ended up on the back porch again. It had become their spot, the place where hard conversations happened. I've been thinking, Vanessa said. Dangerous. I want to sell my apartment, the one downtown. Landon looked at her. Why? Because every time I'm there, I think about Adrian standing in my kitchen. I think about the investment documents spread out on the table. I think about all the ways I let him into my space and my life. So redecorate, change it. I don't want to change it. I want to leave it. It was never really mine anyway. It was just another thing I bought because I thought it was what I was supposed to want. What do you want? She looked at him steadily. I want crooked shelves and burnt pancakes and a 7-year-old who asks inappropriate questions at breakfast. I want the back porch where we have hard conversations and the kitchen where you won't let me cook because I'm terrible at it. I want this. Landon's heart was doing something complicated in his chest. You want to move in here? If you'll have me. Vanessa, this house is falling apart. The porch is held up by hope and stubbornness. The bathroom tile is from 1952. There's a leak in the roof I keep meaning to fix but never get around to. I know. I've been living here for 3 months. I've seen all of it. You could buy a mansion, 10 mansions. You could have anything you want. I want this, she said again. I want imperfect and messy and real. I want a home that feels like someone actually lives in it instead of something from an architecture magazine. I want you and Emma and the neighbor's dog that won't stop barking. This is what I want. Landon pulled her close, and she came easily, fitting against him the way she always did. The lease on this place is in my name, he said. But if you want to buy it and fix it up properly. No, I want to rent it with you, split the cost, be equals in this. You're a billionaire. We're not going to be equals financially. Then we'll be equals in other ways. You cook, I'll clean, you fix things, I'll break them and give you job security. You teach Emma how to use power tools, I'll teach her how to negotiate contracts. We'll figure it out. You're really bad at cleaning. I'll learn. And you can't cook to save your life. I'll order takeout. I'm very good at that. Landon kissed her, soft and slow, tasting salt from earlier tears and something hopeful underneath. Emma's going to lose her mind, he said. Good. She's been asking me when I'm officially moving in for 2 weeks now. What'd you tell her? That I was waiting for her dad to get his act together? Smart kid. They stayed on the porch long after the cold should have driven them inside, making plans that felt both terrifying and inevitable. Vanessa would sell her downtown apartment and officially move into the house. They'd fix the porch together, maybe tackle the bathroom tile. Emma would get a say in redecorating the living room because it was her house too. What about work? Landon asked. Your office is downtown. I'll commute or work from home more. The board doesn't actually need me in person as much as they think they do. You sure about this? Suburban life with a contractor and a 7-year-old? I've never been more sure of anything. She paused. Except maybe the Adrian thing. I was pretty sure about that too, and look how it turned out. Too soon for jokes? Probably. But if I can't laugh about it, the shame wins. Can't have that. 4 months later, they were back at the same furniture store where this whole mess had started. The one where the owner had called Vanessa Landon's wife and set off a chain reaction that had cost $750,000 and nearly destroyed everything. Emma was with them this time, pointing at chairs and declaring which ones looked comfortable enough for reading and which ones were just for show. The owner recognized them immediately. Back again, he said cheerfully. Still shopping for that apartment? No, Landon said. We're furnishing a house now. Wonderful, wonderful. And you two finally figured things out. Vanessa glanced at Landon. He could see the question in her eyes. Are we doing this? He took her hand. Not yet, he said to the owner. But we're working on it. The man laughed. Good, good. Marriage isn't something to rush into. After he walked away, Vanessa squeezed Landon's hand. Not yet? She asked quietly. Not yet. But soon. How soon? Ask me again when we've lived together for more than 4 months and you've seen me at my worst. I've already seen you at your worst. You're not that bad. Give it time. I leave dishes in the sink and I'm terrible about putting laundry away. I can live with that. And I snore. Emma already told me, loudly and in detail. Of course she did. They bought chairs for the dining room, 6 of them, because Vanessa insisted they needed space for guests, even though Landon couldn't remember the last time he'd had more than Martinez over for dinner. Emma picked out throw pillows that didn't match anything, but she loved them, so they bought those too. At the register, the owner rang everything up and asked if they needed help loading. We got it, Landon said. You folks have a wonderful day. And hey, the owner winked at Vanessa. Next time I see you, I better hear wedding bells. After they loaded everything into Landon's truck, Emma announced she was hungry, and could they please get burgers? You just had pancakes 3 hours ago, Landon said. That was breakfast. This is lunch. It's 10:30 in the morning. Pre-lunch. They got burgers. Sat in a booth at a diner that had been there since before Landon was born, eating food that was objectively terrible and somehow perfect. Emma got ketchup on her shirt. Vanessa tried to help clean it and made it worse. Landon watched them and thought about furniture stores and stupid jokes and all the ways life could surprise you if you stopped hiding from it. What are you smiling about? Vanessa asked. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. That's not an answer. I'm smiling because 6 months ago I was convinced we'd never work, and now I'm sitting in a diner watching you make Emma's ketchup stain worse, and I've never been happier. That's a low bar for happiness. Or maybe it's exactly the right bar. Emma finished her burger and wandered off to look at the ancient jukebox in the corner. Vanessa moved closer to Landon in the booth, her shoulder pressed against his. I'm happy too, she said quietly. Even with everything that happened, even with the money gone and the headlines and the trial, I'm happy. Yeah? Yeah. Because the money was never the point. The point was figuring out what actually matters. And what matters? She gestured at the diner, the cracked vinyl booths, the laminate tables, Emma feeding quarters into a jukebox that probably hadn't worked since 1987. This, she said, people who show up, who tell you the truth even when it's hard to hear, who drive 2 hours in the middle of the night because they're worried about you, who make you burnt eggs and fix your crooked shelves and love you for exactly who you are, not what you're worth. I do make really good eggs. The best. She kissed him, quick and soft. And you are getting better at the shelves. Practice makes slightly less crooked. When they got home, they spent the afternoon arranging the new chairs around the dining table. Emma insisted on testing each one for comfort and declared the one nearest the window her official seat. "This one's mine forever," she announced. "What if someone else wants to sit there?" Vanessa asked. "Then they have to ask me first. And I'll probably say no." "That's not how sharing works, Bug," Landon said. "It is in my house." Vanessa caught Landon's eye and mouthed, "My house." He grinned. Later, after Emma was asleep and they were cleaning up dinner dishes, Vanessa's phone rang. "Agent Chen." "I wanted to give you an update," Chen said. "We found another victim, woman in Chicago, similar pattern to yours. She's willing to testify if we can build a case for additional charges." "How much did she lose?" Vanessa asked. $1.5 million. Vanessa closed her eyes briefly. "Does she know the money's gone?" "I told her. She's devastated, but she wants him to pay for what he did." After the call ended, Vanessa stood at the sink, hands braced against the counter. "Another one," she said. "Yeah. $1.5 million. That's twice what I lost." Different people, different circumstances. Same pattern, though. Same lies, same manipulation. She turned to face him. "How many others do you think there are? Women who lost everything and never reported it because they were too ashamed? I don't know. But you're helping them. By speaking up, by testifying, you're making it easier for them to come forward. It doesn't bring the money back. No. But it means they're not alone." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I want to start a foundation for fraud victims. Help them recover, connect them with resources, provide legal support. Make something good come from this mess." "That's a lot of work. I have time and money and apparently a talent for relating to people who've been scammed by charming sociopaths." "You're serious about this?" "Completely." "Will you help me?" Landon thought about all the ways he could say no. He had a business to run, a daughter to raise, a house that desperately needed repairs. He had no experience with foundations or fraud recovery or any of the things Vanessa was talking about. But he also knew that look in her eyes. The one that said she was going to do this whether he helped or not, and she'd do it better if she didn't have to do it alone. "Yeah," he said. "I'll help." The foundation took 8 months to establish properly. Vanessa threw herself into it with the same intensity she'd once applied to building her technology portfolio. She hired lawyers, researchers, victim advocates. She reached out to other fraud survivors and listened to their stories. She turned her worst mistake into a mission. Landon helped where he could. He wasn't good at the legal stuff or the organizational structure, but he understood building things from the ground up. He helped renovate an office space for the foundation. He connected Vanessa with contractors who'd been scammed and were willing to share their experiences. He showed up to every board meeting and press conference, a quiet presence in work boots and Carhartt pants, reminding everyone that this wasn't just about money, it was about people. Emma, now 8, appointed herself the foundation's unofficial mascot. She drew posters about stranger danger that were sweet and horrifying in equal measure. She asked every adult she met if they'd ever been scammed, which led to some awkward conversations at parent-teacher conferences. Through it all, life continued its messy, imperfect way. The porch got fixed, properly this time, with permits and everything. The bathroom tile was replaced with something from this century. Vanessa learned to make exactly one meal, spaghetti with store-bought sauce, which Emma declared was pretty good for Vanessa cooking. They had fights. About money, because of course they did. About how much Vanessa should contribute to household expenses when she was worth billions and Landon was still paying off his truck. About Emma's education and whether she should go to private school. About whose family to visit for holidays and how to blend their very different worlds. But they also had moments. Quiet mornings, drinking coffee on the newly fixed porch. Emma's school plays where they sat together and pretended her singing was good. Late nights working on the foundation, passing documents back and forth, building something that mattered. A year after Vanessa officially moved in, Landon woke up early on a Saturday morning and found her already awake, staring at the ceiling. "What's wrong?" he asked. "Nothing, just thinking." "About?" "That furniture store, the one where this all started." "What about it?" "I want to go back." "Why? We have enough chairs." "Not to buy anything, just to see it. Face it, I guess." So they went. Left Emma with Rachel and drove to the store on a sunny Saturday afternoon. The owner was there, same as always, greeting them with the enthusiasm of someone who genuinely loved furniture. "My favorite couple," he said. "What brings you in today?" "Just looking," Vanessa said. They wandered through the store, past the table they'd bought a year ago, past chairs and dressers and all the pieces of other people's lives waiting for new homes. "You know what I realized?" Vanessa said quietly. "What?" "That day, when he called me your wife and you laughed it off, I was hurt, but I was also relieved." "Relieved?" "Because it meant I didn't have to deal with wanting something I was convinced I couldn't have. I could stay safe in the friend zone and never risk rejection." She touched the edge of a vintage sideboard. "Adrian happened because I was hurt, yeah, but also because I was scared, same as you. We were both idiots." "Agreed, but we're learning." The owner appeared beside them. "See anything you like?" "Actually," Landon said, pulling a small box from his jacket pocket, "I wanted to do this here, where it started." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, nothing fancy, just a simple band with a small stone that had belonged to his grandmother. Vanessa stared at it. "I'm not getting down on one knee," Landon said, "because my knee's been bothering me since I fell off that ladder last week and I don't think I could get back up." "Romantic. And I'm not going to make a big speech about how you complete me or whatever because that's not how people talk in real life." "Also romantic. But I'm going to ask if you want to marry me. Not because it'll change anything fundamental about us. We're already building a life together. We're already committed. But because I want to stand up in front of Emma and your board of directors and my crew and everyone else and officially claim you as mine. Yours. In the extremely feminist, two equal partners choosing each other sense of the word. Obviously. The owner was crying. They both ignored him. "So?" Landon asked. "What do you say?" Vanessa looked at the ring, then at him, then at the store around them, the place where a stupid joke had started everything, where pain and miscommunication had led to mistakes and growth and eventually something real. "I say yes," she said, "but only if Emma gets to be the flower girl. She's going to insist on it anyway. And only if we keep living in that falling apart house instead of buying something sensible." "It's not falling apart anymore. We fixed it. We made it slightly less falling apart. There's a difference." "Fine. We'll keep the slightly less falling apart house." "Then yes, I'll marry you." Landon slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, which was lucky because he'd guessed at the size based on a ring he'd seen her wear once. The owner applauded. Vanessa laughed. And Landon thought about crooked shelves and burnt eggs, and all the imperfect things that had somehow added up to exactly right. They got married 4 months later in Landon's backyard, which Vanessa had spent 8 weeks turning into something beautiful, despite having no gardening skills whatsoever. Emma was the flower girl, wearing a purple dress that matched her bedroom and carrying a basket of rose petals she threw with aggressive enthusiasm. The guest list was small. Rachel and her family, Martinez and the crew, Vanessa's board members who'd become friends, a few fraud survivors from the foundation who'd wanted to celebrate with them. No press, no publicity. Just people who mattered, gathered under string lights that Landon had hung himself, watching two people who'd taken 6 years to figure out what everyone else already knew. Vanessa wore a simple dress that probably cost more than Landon's truck, but looked like something any bride might wear. Landon wore a suit he'd bought specifically for this, the first new suit he'd owned in a decade. They wrote their own vows. Landon's were short. "I promise to fix your shelves when they fall down, make you burnt eggs every Saturday, and love you even when you're being stubborn and impossible," which is most of the time. Vanessa's were longer. "I promise to let you teach me how to cook, even though we both know it's hopeless. I promise to build a life with you that's messy and imperfect and real. I promise to never let fear keep me from telling you the truth. And I promise to remember that love isn't found in mansions or money or status. It's built piece by piece, shelf by crooked shelf, in the spaces between two people who choose each other every single day. Emma cried. Rachel cried. Martinez pretended he had something in his eye. When they kissed, everyone cheered. And Landon thought about a furniture store and a stupid joke and all the ways life could break you open just to show you what you were really made of. At the reception, which was really just dinner in the backyard with tables Landon had built and food from Emma's favorite restaurants, Vanessa's phone buzzed with a news alert. Marcus Feldman had been charged with additional counts of fraud. The woman from Chicago, plus 3 others who'd come forward after hearing about the foundation. Combined sentences could reach 30 years. Vanessa showed Landon the alert. Justice? He asked. Something like it. They danced their first dance to a song Emma had picked. Something pop, and completely inappropriate for a wedding, but perfect for them. Halfway through, Emma insisted on joining, and they let her, the 3 of them moving in a circle that was more chaos than choreography. Later, when the guests had left, and Emma was asleep, and they were cleaning up paper plates and string lights, Vanessa stopped in the middle of the yard. What? Landon asked. I'm happy, that's all. I just wanted to say it out loud. Even though you lost $750,000? Even though, because I gained this. You and Emma and a life that feels real. A foundation that's helping people. A purpose beyond just accumulating wealth. That's very philosophical for someone who's been drinking champagne all night. I'm allowed to be philosophical on my wedding day. Fair point. They finished cleaning in comfortable silence. When they went inside, Vanessa stopped in the living room, looking at the crooked bookshelf Landon had built years ago. You know what I love about this shelf, she said? That it's a constant reminder of my carpentry failures? That it's ours. We didn't buy it from some expensive store. You built it, and it's crooked, and it's perfect. It's really not perfect. Perfect for us, then. Landon pulled her close, and she came easily, fitting against him the way she always had, the way she always would. Hey, Vanessa, he said. Yeah? I'm glad that guy at the furniture store called you my wife. Even though it started all this mess? Especially because it started all this mess, because the mess led here. She kissed him, soft and slow and full of promise. Me too, she said. Me too. And standing in their slightly falling apart house with their crooked shelves and mismatched furniture and everything they'd built together, Landon Hayes finally understood what home really meant. It wasn't a place you bought or inherited. It wasn't something you found fully formed, waiting for you to move in. Home was something you built with another person, piece by imperfect piece, shelf by crooked shelf, mistake by mistake, until one day you looked around and realized you'd created something that was exactly right precisely because it was imperfectly yours. The money never came back. Adrian, Marcus, whatever his real name was, served his time in federal prison and probably ran new scams the day he got out. But Vanessa's foundation grew, helped hundreds of fraud victims, changed laws, made the world slightly less friendly to con artists and slightly more supportive of the people they hurt. Emma grew up in a house filled with love and laughter and the occasional argument about whose turn it was to do dishes. She learned to use power tools and negotiate contracts. She learned that mistakes didn't define you, how you responded to them did. And Landon and Vanessa lived in their slightly less falling apart house, fixing things and breaking them and building a life that was messy and complicated and absolutely perfectly theirs. Because in the end, that was the point. Not the money, or the headlines, or the justice. The point was showing up, being honest, loving someone enough to tell them the truth even when it was terrifying, building something together one crooked shelf at a time. The point was home, and they'd finally found it.